Do we have a quorum?
I believe
It's
we
a
do.
question. Okay, good.
We're the 5 official members, right? Voting members?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're good. We are good. Okay. All right. I will call the meeting to order and roll call vote. We can just go down do you want to, Stephen, do you want?
Yeah, actually, since we're all here in person, I think we can just do a Facebook.
Oh, we don't need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can just
What?
say all
Just
in
say,
favor and then let's go aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I know in Concon you guys always with this roll call everything, but.
Oh, groundwater protection, we're brutal. Everything is voted on. Okay, so tonight's agenda was posted and sent around. Are there any topics that are not anticipated 48 hours in advance that anyone needs to bring up? No. Okay, roll call vote to accept the agenda.
Wait, can you read the agenda out?
Oh, sure. It starts after the agenda. It starts with reviewing the minutes from our last meeting, and then updates on the intermunicipal agreements with Framingham and Natick, if there are any. And then project updates on the Coolidge Crossing Meadowbrook Commons construction project. And then scheduling and then adjourn.
Okay.
Anything to, yes?
Move approval?
Okay, second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Minutes.
Yeah, they were sent out. I got a couple of very minor edits on the most recent version. I think there was maybe one or two misspelling or something like that, but I think otherwise they will remain the same. Thank everyone for comments, especially on places where I had names or clarity wrong in the first draft.
So you want a motion to accept?
Yes, okay, motion to accept, okay,
minutes?
all,
As presented?
second, all in favor? Aye, okay, that was quick, all right. Updates intermunicipal agreements with Framingham and Natick. As we discussed last time, we are going to continue with negotiations with the towns, parallel to the developer working on his permitting. And I believe there was a meeting today. I don't know if there's any updates.
The update is that the meeting was canceled.
Okay.
Because the select board representative from Natick was very sick.
Okay.
Oh,
There is a lot going around, I will
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
Was very sick? did you
Sick.
say?
She was very sick, yes, I'm not
I was
sick.
gonna say,
I
she
just-
just joked
We
there.
need to get you
Oh,
some
the
water.
Oh, she's going to the rescue.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
were there any outstanding things that you wanted to discuss today that didn't get discussed that you can report on with Natick?
Not at this point.
Okay.
I don't think so. We have to have another meeting with Natick.
When will that be, do you know?
We've rescheduled for
Next Monday?
next Monday.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I think that's perhaps mainly going to be a meeting between Natick and Toll Brothers, with us being pretty much flies on the wall, so that we know how that's going.
Yeah, is that Natick and Toll Brothers, they're working on their developers agreement. And so presumably sometime after that is hashed out, then we'll be working on the IMA with Natick.
I did, regarding the state process and all the hoops that Toll Brothers is going to have to go through, and that we may be able to help with data and information, as we said. I sent out the original environmental notification form. This is from 2021. But Toll Brothers is, oh, thank you. Toll Brothers is using this basically as their starting point. I noticed a couple little things that need to be changed in for the resubmission, but basically, I think, sorry, Jeremy's not here because he knows his way around this stuff and I don't, but this environmental notification form and the state's response to it, which I also sent you, which is called, let's see if I can find it.
The certificate of something.
Yeah, here we go. ENF certificate. That was also, they responded within a month, which I thought was pretty impressive. That ENF certificate is a long, is a long thing. It's actually worth looking through it to see what the state requires just in terms of paperwork. And right now, I think we mentioned before that Toll Brothers is taking the first step in responding to all this stuff that they're asking for by doing a well test. And they have 2 wells and they're slated to drill 2 more. They are, last I heard from Jeremy is that they're intending to do the well test within the next couple of weeks. So that'll be interesting information that I'm sure they'll share with us.
Sure.
Yeah, he had said that they might get their permit approval mid-June this month and might start by the end of the month. Yeah, that's what he had mentioned,
And then we'll sort of know better what our
where
work
we stand.
is cut out to
Yeah.
do.
So the well tests are to determine the capacity of water, not the quality of water.
Both.
Or both.
Both.
I think they,
Yeah, they're doing a 48-hour test.
Okay.
Which tests the, and I hope recovery time too. So they'll figure out basically whether there's enough water there. If there is, of course, we know there's still a problem, and then we'll have to get to work to make sure they know that it's not a good option.
Yep.
right. The only thing I have to add is that there were 2 wells installed previously by the prior developer. They had been collapsed or filled in, but Toll Brothers had them cleared out. They pumped them for 48 hours to sort of clear out whatever debris might have fallen in and to get representative water samples, and they tested. And the data from those 2 wells did meet the water quality, drinking water standards and guidelines. They tested for the regular drinking water quality parameters and VOCs, PFAS, 1,4-dioxane, and radon. And the data were all within the drinking water standards. So I guess when they install the 2 new wells, that they'll, and then apparently use all 4 to do the longer duration pumping test, they will test the new wells also.
Yeah.
And we'll see where we
Yeah,
stand.
I asked Jeremy about this. He said that at some point, probably that with these wells now, they have to do simultaneous pumping tests. You know, to make sure the wells aren't competing with each other and giving you a false idea of how
Yeah.
much water is actually there. But, yeah, all the same concerns still apply. So either way, there's, the way I look at it, there's quite a bit that this committee can help with in terms of information for Toll Brothers to use in going to the state for these things.
Will you know in advance, I imagine you'll know in advance when the well test is going to happen, because some of the neighbors may want to be informed of that day, even just to see if their own well.
That is a good point. I haven't seen a plan for that.
Yeah, I don't actually know the answer to that.
Because if
That's a very good
there are a
point.
couple of houses very, very close, yeah.
Yeah,
So, and I know one of the homeowners is on the committee, so.
We can touch base with Jeremy and just,
yeah,
he can chat with Toll Brothers and see if they will let us know the date and time when well testing is gonna be scheduled. I don't know that they're required to tell us that, but
They would though.
yeah, I'm pretty sure they've been, generally speaking, pretty cooperative, and anytime we've asked them for any information, they've been very forthcoming, so.
They're not required to test neighboring wells though.
No, but
So-
just so they could see.
But neighbors should have a chance to test their wells.
And
If
also
their
just to see if
pressure
their
is
pressure goes
low,
down, yeah.
yeah.
Right, right. The real way to test that, I guess, is you have to actually put a sensor down the well and look at levels. We went through this
Mm.
when we were talking about the wells on Hunting Lane for the Lebarski properties. Either a sonar detector, which is not so good, or a transducer to measure where the water levels are in neighboring wells and whether they recover from a hit. I mean, the worst case scenario, of course, is that people run out of water, and then you really know.
Well,
But-
if the town is interested in, covering all bases and showing that something is probably in the town's best interest not to have those wells running, they might even be interested. I don't know.
It might be worth doing.
Yeah.
How close are the test wells to neighboring wells?
Not terribly close.
Oh,
The
okay.
test wells are kind of on the top of the hill, at the very back end of those development properties. That's the only place where they were out of the resource protection areas.
Okay,
So they're far from neighboring wells, but they're deep wells. I mean, I think they went down, 800 feet or something.
Does the
So,
Board of Health usually have to have a witness during a well test?
That's a good question. I don't think that they do, but I'm not 100% sure. I mean, they need to be notified.
Yeah,
I
my
would
guess is
think
no,
that-
because they have to submit the paperwork to the Board of Health and it doesn't come through their, it doesn't come through Mark or anybody.
They need a permit to or permission to put the well in. But I don't know that they need to be present.
Yeah.
and do they use a transducer or something to know? They must, because they have to record the water level during the test and during the recovery period. So, yeah, they must use a transducer. I knew all this stuff once for temporarily because it's not my thing. But yeah,
I'm just wondering, to be safe, we should alert the Board of Health if these tests are going on and let them attend or not, although maybe.
Actually, Board of Health was notified today.
I'm sorry?
Board of Health was notified today. They weren't quite aware of the testing, but someone called today to get permission for 2 wells. And they asked at our land use meeting, oh, why are they gonna call for 2 wells? And we said, it's Toll Brothers.
Interesting.
So the Toll Brothers did contact the Board of
Well,
Health?
no, Toll Brothers didn't. Whoever's drilling the well contacted Board of
Yeah.
Health.
The well drilling company, who probably also does the pump testing for them.
Yeah, but I don't know. They didn't say like, oh, now
They
we're
didn't
gonna set
elaborate.
this up. We just know that they're applying to do it.
So the Board of Health knows.
Yes.
There is
For those of you that can't see, that's Heidi Doyle. She shares the office with the Board of Health, so she knows what's going on, always.
So we hear things.
Okay.
There should be paperwork also that they fill out telling them how deep that they're gonna drill and
mhm.
other parameters, where they're located, a plan. I haven't seen anything, but that should be submitted to the Board of Health.
I don't think it has to be submitted in advance of drilling the well. It's a completion report that they submit.
But I think there's both.
I think if the Board of
There's-
Health is involved, they're gonna do it right.
Yeah. When I put in monitoring wells, there are certain towns that require it and certain towns that don't. I believe we are a town that does require notification of the installation of wells. I know Dover does, I've drilled there. So
Yeah.
they want to know when you're putting in a well, and that's primarily because, so it doesn't get abandoned and surface waters or contamination can filter in when nobody's paying
Right.
attention anymore to it. So hopefully, but we should definitely touch base.
I'll ask both
with,
Tom Trainer and I can talk to, we're gonna have a well drilled soon, so I just know that
Oh.
there's not much to it. You just, you get it approved, it was approved. And then the company comes and drills when they're able, and then there's a well completion report. And, there's like a general area, there's a general area where the well needs to go, and it can move a little bit depending on the geology and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you're right, there is like a general location there.
I think there.
Yeah, you're right, on a plan, has to get submitted, yes.
I would, yeah. If these are intended, in theory, to be potential drinking water wells, I would definitely think they would need to locate them. And it may be in the permit as well, which I haven't seen either.
Mhm.
The permit that they applied to Mass DEP to do, that they don't have the permit yet, but they should get it soon.
The Mass DEP website has a detailed procedure that I read back in the day, and I should have reread it, as to who needs to be notified and, what needs to be recorded and who gets the information. So,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty standard. But it's a good point to notify the neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that much water is gonna be pumped for 48 hours, that's a lot.
Yeah, I think it would be all the abutters to the property, including maybe the people back on Rockland Street,
Oh, Rockwood.
Rockwood, I mean. Because they're right up at the top of the hill as well. And of course, the wells are so deep, who knows
Yeah, but it's-
whose
keep them-
aquifer they're
yeah, But I
sharing.
think it's wise to keep them informed as to what's going on.
Absolutely.
Even though we may not need to, but I think we should.
Yeah,
So,
Well, they're going to hear the installation. They're going to hear the equipment, I would think, when they're
Well,
yeah,
installing.
we don't want.
That's not the notification we want to give them.
The notification.
So whose
Yeah.
responsibility is it to notify the neighbors? Who's the best? I mean, we'll mention it to Jeremy,
Yeah.
of course.
I think
Board
a
of
le-
Health.
Should a letter be sent from the Board of Selectmen
Mhm.
or from the town office to all the abutters? And all houses
Yeah, yeah.
within the district, I would think.
Letter from the town
From the town,
describing exactly what's being done and why.
Right.
Yeah.
Although Heidi might have some thoughts.
Heidi.
Yeah, I don't know if there's precedents or things set, and I don't know how willing it's gonna be. I would talk with Jeremy first to see, it might be this group, which is not the town organization, can notify someone in your district now that this testing's being done as part of your district duties. The other thing is, I'm on the website, I'm trying to get going a town project. It's in the homepage on the town website, it's labeled town projects. And I'd love to put this as one of them, and if you wanna send me updates, I'll update it, or just try to have some place where people can go and look to try and read something on it rather than try to call around. Trying to put my town forest on, I'm trying to see if Sean will give me more of an update. I put the roundabout on there. It's hard to get people to go anywhere to look, like we don't have a town newspaper,
No.
newsletter or anything like that.
Right.
It's-
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
In this case, though, I think a letter to all the abutters is a good idea because that would include people who are not in the district, but are abutters. People back on Rockwood Street, for example. Some people, I guess all the other abutters are within the district, but in any case, anyone who hears the drilling out there is going to be calling the town
Yeah,
hall.
right.
And that should be as soon as possible so they can line up some pre-testing if they want.
There's already been a lot of construction going on in the house right next to the power line. I don't know who's doing that or who's authorizing that, but it's mainly just clearing junk out of there, but some heavy equipment in there.
Right.
I saw the excavator.
Daniel Anderson.
What's that?
I saw the excavator
Yeah,
sitting
right.
there. I didn't know whether that was part of this project or
I don't know
or
whether
not?
it is or
Yeah.
not. But,
Uh-huh.
There's a raised hand, Jeannie.
It's me. I have a quick question. Is this drilling part of the Coolidge Crossing project? So that should also be put on the land development under the Coolidge Crossing project, and that can be sent out to everybody. So you can have it in two separate places, but if it has something to do with Toll Brothers and the new project, it should probably go there also.
Good point. Coolidge Crossing and Meadowbrook Commons, I guess, I don't know if they're together on the website at this point.
They're
I don't
not
think they
together,
are.
but it could be, we could have a separate one that has both on, combined, because it is affecting both, but that's just a suggestion. This is your deal.
well, that's a great suggestion.
Good
It is
idea.
good. Mhm.
See, now you know somebody's, I'm
Daniel?
listening.
And
Sorry
the
about that.
pre-testing would, of course, be at the homeowner's own expense. They have to take responsibility for that, right?
No.
And pre-testing in this case, I mean, they should have the option, I guess, of putting in a transponder or some sort of monitor, well depth monitor and water depth monitor, but that's a lot more expensive. And I'm sure the town doesn't want to take that on. I mean, town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, they have to know about it, so.
I don't even know, 72 hours or 48 hours.
Mhm.
That's not a long time to be pumping relative to forever. So, they may or may not see effects, and I'm not convinced that if they don't see any changes, I'm not convinced that they wouldn't in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, you're right.
But yes, they should have the opportunity to monitor what's happening while the pump test is going.
I guess it's kind of more public relations than anything else, just
Yeah.
keeping people informed.
Daniel Anderson.
Danny, let me call you back. Sorry. Let me turn this off. Do you know how to turn it off?
Which is the volume you're doing?
Oh, the
Just
sound.
click that.
Oh. I'm not a,
You're not a phone.
well, I'm not an Apple,
Sorry.
I don't know if there's any other items to be talked about tonight. I think, like we discussed, in terms of the project, we're in a waiting pattern to see what the pump test and the new water quality data say. And we just have to wait and see
Mhm.
what the data says. And then, if we need to, we're certainly prepared to respond with all our reasons why on-site water supply is not a good idea. And not approved, and the approval, obviously, the project approval is contingent upon municipal water and sewer from the abutting towns, so.
I was wondering if Marion or Steve, if you'd be willing to just give a brief rundown of like the steps. So some well tests and then talking to Natick on Monday, but what are the next few steps that we should have on our radar and know about? And
Right, it's sort of spelled out in that Massachusetts state thing, the
The
certificate.
ENF, the Certificate of the Environmental
Right, okay.
Notification Form.
At one point back in the day, I went through and listed them. And we're gonna have to reach out to DEP to get a statement that there's not sufficient water on site. The other things they're gonna ask for is support from Framingham for giving us the water, support from the surrounding Sherborn neighborhood, and this is just for the water. Then, let's see, we've got a MIPA review that is a state environmental protection review, which I think Toll Brothers will have to do that. Then the Interbasin Transfer Act review. Tom Trainer sent out some nice links about the Interbasin Transfer Act. I think I might have sent one of those around called Pathway Through the ITA. That I don't think there's too much there, but we require the environmental impact report. Oh, Toll Brothers has to put in a full environmental impact report. Apparently, this initial application doesn't count for that. The initial application was simply
The environmental notification form.
notification. Yeah.
Yep, and then they have to prepare a draft environmental impact report and submit that with a whole bunch of components, this being one of them.
Right.
And submit that to a bunch of agencies. And then that's reviewed and finalized. So this testing is all pieces that are part of the environmental impact report that they'll need to put together.
If you had to guesstimate the timeline for any of those, obviously the well testing and the meeting with Natick and going forward with that would be in the next month. Anything in maybe the 1 to 2 or 3 month time scale that you would expect?
Well, for the environmental impact report, Toll Brothers is going to have to put that together. They already have most of it
Yeah.
from that initial thing that Pulte put together. But, you know, it might be, now that I think of it, it might be worth us going to the state website for environmental impact report and just, or maybe Steve and I should communicate with Toll Brothers, you know, what components of this report can you use data from the town? Could we help, you know, provide data? Because
Sorry. Yeah, I'm also hoping they'll let us review it before they submit it in case we can
Yeah.
have input.
yeah, that's a good point too.
So that
And
would be
a bunch
done.
of things can kind of be worked on in parallel. For example, the Concom is going to have to review and approve their pipe going under Coarse Brook. It's going to cross Coarse Brook.
Yep.
And, you know, that's a big red flag for conservation. They know about that. But, you know, we might get that horse on the road because it takes them a lot of time to get through these things. Just so they're aware and start looking into it and putting together some preliminary information.
Do they know what to do? Does Concom know what to do?
I think so. It's all in the regulations.
It is, okay.
They'll want to see a filing from the developer with all the,
They'll have to have it. The developer also hasn't given us final engineering plans yet. And the Concom would need that, but I think some guidance from Concom to the developer might be good at this point. Also, I'm not sure the Concom approval of their wetland crossing for the Meadowbrook Commons entryway, it has been re-reviewed. They reviewed it to begin with, the preliminary plan. That's the EA development. Their entry road crosses a wetland.
Yeah.
And it is possible to do that. They went through all that and decided that the area of alteration could be dealt with. So it's not a deal breaker, but that's just, it might be a good idea for us to review that with Concom and give them a heads up.
Yeah.
That it's coming.
Who should do that?
Who should do that?
That's what I said.
You were gonna be.
I mean, I can certainly.
Well,
my-
you
my
know
wife
someone.
is the co-chair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of the previous projects that they reviewed is still applicable here,
right.
you know, because they got pretty deep into it with Baystone.
They did. It might be good to just
And I-
pull up all those
Yeah,
or have
I mean,
them.
the project I don't think has changed dramatically since Baystone, right?
Not
It's just
significantly.
It's just a
No.
new developers all.
I have
Yeah.
to-
It's pretty different from the original 2017 plan or whatever, but.
I imagine they can't do the engineering until they know about the wells or no wells, so.
That's
Pretty
right.
big, so.
Yeah, that's what, I'm guessing that Toll Brothers is waiting for some other things to get settled before they start working on all of the subsequent sort of paths,
Yeah.
is my guess. So it might be premature trying to get them going on a lot of these other things when, I mean, the well testing is gonna be a pretty significant data point, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If I were them, I don't think I would be wanting to waste all my time until I knew what was going on there, so.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I'm thinking of ways we can waste our time.
Yeah, our time is free, and their time is not free, so.
good point.
I have a question. In one of the plans for that overall project, there was an agreement to purchase the house on Coolidge Street next to that abandoned house. Is that off the table now with the change?
No, it's still on the table, but that's between Toll Brothers and the owner, Aaron
I
Paddock.
understand. So that's still in place.
It is, every now and then, every few weeks I check in with him.
Okay.
Just let him know what progress I can tell
Good.
him about,
That's good.
just to, and yeah, according to him, it's still on the books.
So the project will then use that portion of land, it's about 6 acres.
Not the whole thing. I think they plan to sell the house. They'll use like
About
what
5
is-
acres back.
some acres at the back,
Yeah, okay,
right?
all right, good.
They'll probably sell the house and,
Yeah.
so, yeah, what else can we do? I think, when is Toll Brothers gonna commit? That's what I wanna know. And I know that they're gonna need to have the IMAs in place. I mean, intermunicipal, the IMAs in place, for
But I-
sure.
Aren't they going to have a developers agreement
And developers agreement.
before, yeah, I mean, can't imagine
Oh.
that they're gonna have a developers agreement and not commit.
Yeah,
I feel like they're about to, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, once they have a developers agreement, and if, the powers that be in Sherborn can work out the last bits of the intermunicipal agreements, which are pretty close at this point.
Yeah.
Then maybe Toll Brothers will commit, and then we'll see. Yeah, this is all very tentative, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if the well testing came back in a, however you wanna view it, unfavorable way, they also might basically just choose to back out.
Yeah.
Right? Again, I think that the result of that test is gonna be crucial, probably.
Right, then the question is, the question for them becomes, are they willing to go through all the rigmarole with the state? But there's so much rigmarole with the state
Yeah, I don't
anyway.
know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I feel
haven't
like-
gotten that sense from them. That,
I feel like infeasibility is a broader category than just the pump test and the data. I'm still,
yeah,
I think it's kind of ridiculous to have a water supply there. And I apparently there's certain actions that need to be taken. But I'm hoping we can fight the good fight, even if it comes back unfavorably.
oh, absolutely. I'm ready for it to come back
Yeah.
unfavorably.
I know.
I am,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we don't know,
And
but
I think Toll Brothers is too. We've talked enough with them about the importance, of why we went through this whole water district thing. And there was a good reason we spent 2 years getting a water district. Because the
Right.
alternative was just not safe for the town. So I think we still have a lot of ammunition there. I'm thinking that it may not be too soon to have a meeting with James Arena de Rosa, just to let him know kind of where it stands and
Sure.
where we might need some help.
I think that's an excellent idea because we're gonna need some help
Mhm.
at that level. And we might as well start getting it in place now.
Right, and he was he gave us a lot of support
Yeah.
with the water district.
And to the extent that we can keep close to Toll Brothers and let them know that we're working on their behalf and giving them all the
Oh, yeah.
information and preparing the path for them is also very important, because I'm not so sure that even though Toll Brothers has stuck with us so far, Steve, you know as well as I, corporate headquarters sometimes blows the whistle when the
Yeah.
internal rate of return ain't
This is-
what they expect.
It's a concern. It's just it's a giant national company, so it's like you never really know who is calling the shots.
You're right. And with these tariff wars going on and still tariffs now 50%, it's going to absolutely affect their numbers. I'm sure they're recalculating it every day when.
Yeah, even if our great leader changes his mind tomorrow, which he probably will, it's still, the markets
It's
are,
the uncertainty, exactly. So I think we've got to do everything we can to help this along.
actually, we have been,
I know
I
you
mean,
have. Gotta
yeah.
continue.
we're on first name basis with those Toll Brothers guys. Next time I see them, it might be a hug.
I know.
Might be.
Some cookies, maybe.
And let's hope they stay in place, because any new people coming in may,
I know, yeah.
new people from Toll Brothers coming in may look at it differently.
Yeah.
Who knows? But anyway, I think we're.
Yeah,
all-
I think along those lines, we're doing what we can without being obnoxious.
We have the governor that wants to increase housing availability and affordable housing availability, so
That's
we've got
another,
that.
that's another tack that we could take right now, actually, at any time. Anyone in town who has a direct line to anyone at HLC, EOHLC, at Augustus, for example, we need to reach, because EOHLC, as you know, is represented on the Water Resource Commission, which is a big part of this. So it may be time to reach out to someone. Who would be the best?
I don't know if it should be Chris Clutchman, who's underneath Ed Augustus, or if it should be Ed Augustus.
Clutchman?
Yeah.
Is he at
No,
EOHLC?
She, yeah, but she was handling a lot of the MB 238, the affordable housing, that kind of branch. Because
Do you know her? Sort of?
I've met her at a meeting. I'm happy to call her. I don't mind saying it. They always seem to be, especially if it's to move housing forward.
It might not be bad to just have a chat.
Well, I can ask her what she recommends, who we should talk to.
Right.
That might be anything else. might be
Yeah, you
nice.
understand what we're up against and,
We did have a new resident that moved to town from Mass Development. She works for Mass Development and was explaining, she works out at the Devons area where they're trying to get housing in there. And I was explaining a little bit about some of the things going. I'm trying to get her to be the associate member on the planning board. So I'll see if I can get her to volunteer. But she had she said, let me think about this, because it seems like, she knew a lot of players in the state and knew a lot of different things. So I'm trying to pick her brain to see.
you never
She
know.
also, asked about, well, financing, have you thought about this and this? And I was like, we're not even there yet. So,
That might be a good just a good place to start, have a
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said she was willing to volunteer, so.
I have a question for some of you who know more about water districts and business than I do. If all goes well, let's say, and they get the pipes in the ground and you guys become the permanent commission, hopefully, or whatever, whoever the permanent commission is. The commission is going to have to hire a manager. You're not gonna do all that business paperwork yourself. How exactly does that work? What would be your first step in finding a good manager? And
Because it's not even part of the town officially.
no,
so-
it's
What's that?
not. It's a separate
It's
business.
not part of the town. It's a
No.
separate district, yeah.
Wow.
No, but we do have a relationship with, is it Whitewater that does some of our testing at
Right?
Yeah,
Leland Farms?
yep.
Heidi has a comment as well.
And,
Oh, Heidi.
I did ask this specifically to the new resident, and she said Mass Development had given out grants to some town in the Cape to get one of their water districts started. And it was an outright grant, and I think they got $200,000, sure what it was.
Yeah, the startup is,
She said it went through the Mass Economic Development Committee or whatever, that turned around and said, Mass Development, you give them a grant. So somehow, if you apply through some of the state, means that there can be a way to get grants for some startup funds. But she asked, she goes, do you have your own tax ID? And I said, I don't think they got their own tax ID. I mean, there's a lot of steps involved to setting up as an entity before you'd be hiring anyone.
right.
Yeah.
Is there any guidance for that we could learn from?
There could be, I can reach out and ask them.
well, yeah, that's another
It
approach.
basically becomes a business.
We don't want to be in the business of issuing bills and collecting money and things of that nature. We hire professionals to do that. And I mentioned Whitewater, which I think is the name of it, isn't it, that does our testing?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
Well, they're part of WH White or something construction. And there's a subsidiary of that company that does manage water districts. They do all the legwork. So they're all set up with the software to identify whoever's in the water district, reading the meters and issuing the bills and collecting the money and processing it and so forth. So, yes.
So the district would hire them
Yes,
and they would be paid out of the district
Right.
funds. But when you start, you don't have any funds yet, so
Right.
that's what the grant is for, I guess.
Yeah.
This is actually, this person asked me, she says, why did what you filed, she looked over what was filed in the state, she says, why does it say that the treasurer collector is going to be collecting the payments for this? She said, it's not a town group, but she was surprised that our bill specified that our treasurer collector would be collecting the bills or sending out the bills.
I thought I read that it would be separate, except if we were having, as a district, we're having trouble in collections, then they would tack it on, and I think I'm remembering, tack it on to their real estate
Yeah.
bill or
Property
something,
tax lien,
if
yeah.
people weren't paying their bill, but
No, I didn't go through it either, just like, that's.
Yeah.
nice issue.
yeah, there's professionals that handle all that.
Yeah.
so.
That's right,
We don't wanna
and
get
also
into
in the legislation, if the district can reimburse the town or whoever does this in the town, in the tax office, in the collector's office, so that it could even be, a separate person or extra hours for someone to do this job. We can keep it separate from the real
right.
tax
Yeah.
collector's job. Anyway, all that startup stuff kind of boggles my mind, so I'm not gonna be too helpful when we come.
Hopefully we get there.
Yeah, let's just
That's a
get
good
that
problem to
I
have.
think there will be a lot of other thoughts cleared out by the time you get to that.
Yeah.
point.
We just need people, good people, yeah.
But we could start the process of finding out what organizations may be available to hire to do this. I mean, it's not a rocket science, they're out there.
Other towns have done it.
Yeah.
Get some proposals and see just how they operate, what it costs might be.
They could come in and do a presentation if they like. Yeah, okay. No. Not a big fan.
So for the letter to abutters, I can contact Jeremy about that and decide, who's gonna write it and what it should look like. I wonder if there's a model for that.
And also, I guess, how far in advance and drilling is always hit, like, maybe they can, maybe they can't on a given day, so where would they find out a subsequent date if it's not the first? Because you're not gonna send out a letter every time it gets scuttled.
Oh, no. That's right.
Well, the letter's really just to inform them that the drilling will, it's not gonna ask or solicit input from them as to whether or not they want it or what day they want it.
Oh, no. But the letter could suggest that, if there are any concerns,
Or if they have any
Yeah,
questions.
who could be the contact person that they call to find out more information?
probably Jeremy would be the best one. Or,
I guess the question is how much do we want to start wrapping the town up into all of this?
Right,
Because the district
Right.
is a separate entity.
right,
that's
Jeremy
right.
doesn't work for the district.
no,
No, that's right.
So,
So Toll Brothers is doing the drilling and paying for the drilling. But I feel, Clyde, we need to let the neighbors know.
Yeah, and it's not there.
Maybe just a letter
I think,
of
yeah.
information.
yeah, I don't think that we want to solicit feedback, questions and concerns.
Yeah, you're right. That would be a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but the letter should also say that the district has been established, it's in place, so that if they do have questions, maybe they come back to us,
These are the members.
to say that,
Maybe emphasize the interim and that
Yeah.
there really is no budget related to it at the moment, that this
Right.
is just
I
an
mean,
administrative.
the district itself doesn't have like an email address, does it?
no, it doesn't.
Are there rules around how a independent water district can have an email address? Can it just be a Gmail account?
we're part of the town. You ought to have a,
We're not really part of the
No,
town though,
no.
that's the thing.
Not officially, but it could be, people, for information purposes, people would have to kind of go to the town website and look for a water district link or something. I don't know.
I mean, that's part of the nature of being interim though, right, is that it's like, we don't have the whole structure set up, but
Right.
some amount of it probably would be useful. If there were a generic email account that someone could send a
Yeah, the
message
thing,
to.
we don't have an administrator who can field all those if there are questions
I
and
feel like the
concerns.
volume of questions would be relatively low, I think that,
Right,
between the chair and the vice chair and the clerk, it's like somebody would be able to monitor and then, all right, we got an email message from so-and-so and you
yeah,
send the email, forward it out to everybody, can somebody answer this question, I don't think it would be dozens of emails per day or anything,
well, the
but it
one,
would be good to just establish like
yeah,
like a Gmail account, as long as that's like allowed.
Mhm.
I don't know
Yeah.
I don't know if Tom Mullen might be the person to
Here's
answer
the
that.
question.
yeah, we should ask Tom.
It doesn't matter. There's not gonna be anything, I don't think, that wouldn't be shareable, but would FOIA even count? Like what rules would apply for any emails we get? Would they be, because anything that goes to the town here can be
Yeah,
requested. Would those ones be also requestable?
we're getting to legal questions,
Better look into that.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just putting a question mark there. It might be worth discussing that with Tom Mullen,
Yeah,
our legal counsel.
yeah,
The town is paying for a legal counsel that we can use if we need it. And he's very good. Actually, yeah, he lives in Wakefield. It might not be bad to include him in a meeting just at some point. Maybe it's a little premature right now, but just so we kind of get to pick his brain a little bit.
but I don't know if even just from tonight's meeting, if we generated a small list of questions that were like, geez, we don't know the answer to this. if any of them are most appropriately answered by Tom, you can always just
Yeah,
send them a
I'll
list of
just send out to
questions.
Tom.
Yeah, so I don't know if Andrea, if Meredith, if you guys,
We can
I'll
start
forgive
it,
you, have been writing stuff
Yeah.
down, so you just kind of,
the note takers. We could start it and add to it.
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, Jeremy may be able to give us some guidance as to
That's
the
true.
email
If we don't have
account.
to spend money on Tom, then.
Exactly, yeah, he's great, but
Yeah, so we can start by sending a list to Jeremy and he might be able to answer some of the questions, and then if there are some that are a little deeper into the legal weeds, then we might forward them on.
Right. Yeah, we're meeting with Jeremy anyway on Monday. We might carve out a little more time
Yeah.
at the before or after that meeting. But if you like, I can contact him tomorrow and just tell him we're gonna be,
Jeremy.
Jeremy, is that okay? Or do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you met with our state rep? Are they aware of where we are? What's his name?
James Arena
Arena
DeRosa.
DeRosa?
Is he aware of this initiative?
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Oh, yeah, he's been generally very involved in the legislation and everything. We
Yeah.
haven't met with him recently.
Not very recently, but I've been with him at one event or another, since the water district was established. Maybe, I've probably seen him a couple times.
Is
in
he
the
aware
last
of the
2 months.
testing that we're ongoing and also
That I don't
We
think
don't know.
No,
the outcome,
yeah.
which,
Yeah, I think that's where, I think soon we should probably try to set up a meeting with him,
that's what I'm
just to
thinking.
let him know about all of that stuff that's going on. Because again, if we need persuasive people to convince the state that having on-site wells is a bad idea, we're gonna need his help.
Yeah. I think we could do that
Well, convince the
anytime.
state, the state has already,
Just sit down with him.
the DEP has already said they don't want on-site water.
Yeah.
Oh, well, not exactly.
Depends what department, I think.
Depends on
D-
who in DEP you ask.
Okay, well,
DEP says the Mass Water Resources Commission needs to approve this.
all right.
So then we're back with them, but
Well, I think it's good to keep him on.
Oh,
on top of what-
definitely.
where
Yeah.
things stand, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to contact him.
Yeah.
You know, I've talked with him a lot over the last year or so.
He could be very helpful to us to get the right.
Just so he knows where it stands.
Yeah.
And so he appreciates that all of our affordable housing is riding on this.
Yeah. It's a big chunk of affordable housing that the state should be really interested in.
So I will contact James Arena DeRosa. Unless somebody else wants to. I'm happy to.
he wouldn't return my call.
Really?
I wouldn't even know what to say.
It's all you.
Okay.
Everything?
Is that everything? Okay. Scheduling the first Wednesday is July 2nd. Is anyone here? Can we meet probably just for a quick-ish update?
And what day of the week is that?
That is a Wednesday, and
So
the
the 4th
4th of
is
July
Friday.
obviously is looming.
Friday.
I can meet that day at that time.
I can, having such a busy social calendar.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a long meeting anyways.
Right. The hardest part is setting up unless Jeremy's here.
I think we're good now, though. I think
We rocked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we rocked it. Put that in the minutes.
We found the tiny on button.
The little, yeah, you did, yeah. We're not doing this without you.
7 p.m.
Wednesday, July 2nd at 7 p.m. We need at least 4 of us, as we will all recall, so we really need everyone, so, for sure. And is there a motion to adjourn? Are we
So
done?
moved. So moved.
Okay, second. We are adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Andrea.
Good meeting.